Well, today we're talking about the financial red zone, the importance of the red zone. What is it? We're going to break it all down, explain it to you today, and talk about why this period of time in your life is super crucial for retirement planning. Welcome in to Dollars with Dennis. Glad to have you on the show once more. I'm Ben George with Dennis Hoare of Faith 401k and Money Management. Dennis's financial red zone. I know you're a football fan, right? You enjoy the Bengals. You got a pretty good team right there
Yep.
in your backyard.
Yeah, we do. And they've just spent a lot of money. Signed a $40 million a year contract and $28 million a year for the two receivers. It's a lot of dough.
It is. They've put the investment in. We've seen some returns. It's been a pretty good few years after a long drought there. But kind of making the comparison today for anybody that's a sports fan, a football fan, you might kind of get this metaphor pretty clearly. But for those that aren't, that's okay. We're going to break it down, explain it to you today, what it means, what the financial red zone actually is, and why it's so important when you sit down and plan for retirement. Again, if you have any questions for Dennis, you'll find all the contact information in the show notes and the show description below. But also remember 513-898-1897 or 401k.faith. So let's just start off, Dennis. What is the financial red zone? When we throw out that topic, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, so we're getting down to the deadline. Retirement's in sight. It's somewhere in the near future, 5 to 10 years out. It's just we're close, and how do we get there successfully?
When you were working with clients, are most people in that red zone when they come to see you, Dennis, or are they outside of that a little bit further out?
So we have both. We have because we manage some 401k plans, so we have younger people that are building their assets, and that we call it the accumulation phase. And then the ones that are in that 5 to 10 year, that's when we're getting serious about the red zone and how do we get there and what can we do in that last 5 to 10 years to make sure it's a great exit strategy. And so those are the people that are really need to make some good decisions and get their ducks in order.
Yeah. So the financial red zone, that 5 to 10 years out before retirement. Why do people need to be paying more attention here, Dennis? What's so important about this time frame versus the people that you're working with that are a little bit younger?
Yeah, so the ones that are younger have time to make mistakes. When you're close, you can't make a mistake. It's like you're going to run the ball at the goal line. If you fumble, that's not good to this. So you don't have time to recover from big mistakes. So you want to make sure you have your plan ironed out and eliminate as many pitfalls if possible.
Yeah, I like the fumble. Yeah, I mean, you want to execute in the financial red zone, right? That's
Right?
oftentimes what separates a win from a loss is whether or not you can take advantage of those opportunities as you approach the goal line, as you approach retirement, making sure you're really executing and doing the exact thing you need to be doing to score that touchdown rather than settling maybe for a field goal per se or fumbling, turning it over completely. You mentioned some mistakes that happen. What are some of the mistakes that you commonly see in this period of time before retirement?
So the biggest one lately, it seems to be people have made money in the last couple of years in the markets, and now they still have a mortgage balance, and they want to. Questions come up probably 10 times in the last 2 months. What if I pull out enough money to pay off my mortgage from my 401k, from my IRA, whatever, to do that? And that is just a critical bad decision because the tax implications. Not only is it tax implications, but it's going to deplete assets you need for retirement. And so waiting and trying to pull that money out in a lump sum usually is, sometimes it works, but most of the time it's going to really be a detriment to your plan.
Why has that been coming up so much? Is there something that's led to this
I don't
kind
know.
of recent rise in this question? Or is it just
I,
happen to
I
be
think I think
a
the
coincidence?
interest, yeah. So interest rates are a little bit higher than they were for the 5 or 6 years before that. Still not in bad shape from the historical highs, but interest rates are higher. So in their mind, they think if I can get rid of this payment, then I want to. That's one less thing I have to worry about and deal with in retirement. And what we're finding is that taxes have gone up so much on real estate that even when your home is paid off, your taxes and insurance are still like a payment. so so it takes a lot of preparation to be ready for that red zone.
And I know, like, it probably seems simple, but how many people actually have a plan in this period of time, too, Dennis, right, where they come in and they're 5 to 10 years out? You would think that's a great time to have your ducks in a row, but how often do you find that somebody doesn't even have a plan at this stage of life?
10 years out, very few do.
Yeah.
Very few do. They might have an idea on a napkin or in the back of their head what it looks like, but they don't have a game plan to get from here to there. That red zone, that last 10 yards, if you will, the last 20 yards, how do you get from here to there successfully? What plays do I need to call? Make sure that I'm getting into the end zone from the red zone, and just making sure. So debt is important. What's our debt? What's our budget? Keeping those things really tight. Planning on inflation, and right now with some higher inflation, those kind of things. That's all part of it's going to happen, right? We've been there before, had higher inflation before, had higher interest rates, so got a plan for them. Having an emergency fund is pretty critical, because you don't want to go into retirement and get your income fixed, if you will, and that's what we call fixed income in retirement, and then have an emergency come up that causes you to go off plan and have to take money from somewhere else. So having emergencies built into your plan is important to do that. So the red zone is there. You got to get some good plays. And Joe Burrow, as you mentioned, the Bengals, he is really good at calling good plays in the red zone, for sure.
Yeah, he executes pretty well in that red zone,
Yeah.
especially with the high value targets he has to throw to. And I know, look, I know a lot of people come in without a plan, because for a lot of people, they think investing is the primary aspect of planning, which we know there's a lot more that goes into it. But how much does investing change at this stage, Dennis? I'm sure for those people that you're managing the 401ks for, their approach is probably a little bit different than the people that are getting close to retirement, right?
Absolutely. Younger people can take, as I said, can make mistakes. They can take more chances. The older you get, the less you want to take chances. But at the same time, a bigger common problem we see with people in that 5-year red zone is they get too conservative. They don't want to take any risk, and then their money can't grow enough, because we're going to live. You're going to retire at 65, 68, 69, whatever that age is, and live to 95. That's a long time for money to work, for money to grow, and you got to have proper investments to get it to outpace inflation and last for your income.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think most people wouldn't assume that you're too conservative. Most people would be a little riskier at this point, but that's interesting to hear that happens. So for anyone that's getting close to this retirement red zone period, Dennis, why is it easier if you've started to think about some of these things ahead of time? Maybe people that have been working with you for a number of years outside of this to work on their 401k and some strategies around that. Why is it easier if you've already kind of gotten a leg up on your planning before you get to this stage?
You're not tempted to make a bad mistake. Take a wrong ship. Markets are a little bit crazy this year. Volatility's up, and had a couple years yesterday that retirement's about 18 months out. We've had the plan in place. We went through what could happen between now and then, so forth, and they left feeling very comfortable, because all the numbers matched up. They don't have a ton of money, but they have enough money, and if they plan it right and work the plan, they'll be okay.
I love that. Dennis has more than 30 years of experience in this area. Again, you can get in touch. There's description, has all of our contact info listed there for 401k, Faith 401k and money management. But what do you recommend typically, Dennis? I know that the earlier you start, the better, right? But for anybody that maybe is getting close to retirement, hasn't done the planning, what's the typical range you say, hey, you should start? Is it 5? Is it 10 years out? What do you typically recommend for someone?
Sooner's better, but 5 to 6 years away from when you're going to be retiring. And keep in mind that we might get together and start working on a plan. And as I had to suggest to somebody just a little while ago today, that you might want to find out with your employer if you want to and can work an extra year. So sometimes an option is not there. There's not enough money to retire. So what are the options where the employer lets you work another year? So finding those things out is important. And if we have the plan pretty tight, we can predict a lot of that up to that red zone time.
Yeah, you can kind of course correct a little bit earlier, and maybe the adjustments aren't quite as big. So again, if you're getting close to retirement, hadn't sat down to start doing it, now is that opportunity, right? You want to take advantage of the financial red zone. Hopefully this makes sense of why this time period is so critical for your financial future and having that success in retirement I know you hope for. But again, Faith 401k and money management can help you with all of that and much more. They specialize in a lot of different areas, can help you with that comprehensive planning. So whatever stage you're in, feel free to reach out. All the information's there, but it's 401k.faith is the best way to get in touch. Dennis, thanks for taking us through this. I know we'll be looking forward to hopefully a few more touchdowns and field goals in for the next season for the Bengals.
Thanks, Ben.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Osaic Wealth is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Osaic Wealth.